Good morning. Welcome back to Sunday School. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope everyone's staying safe out there. We miss y'all, and we're glad that we can come back together and share. Actually, this was the last week that we will be sharing in our place study. So we are excited to share today on experiences. Ben, do you have anything you want to say to everybody out there?
We are so excited about getting back together soon. Don't know when yet, but know we're working on a plan and what's going to happen getting back into the swing of church to do that in a safe way and in a helpful way that will also be meaningful. So we're getting there. We're going to take our time, but we are excited about getting back together corporately to worship and connect with one another. Know that we're praying for you, that we miss you, and that we love you. And we hope that you're enjoying some of this place material. And I think you'll really enjoy this session here.
Yes, I think you will too. Just know that even though we're not seeing you in person, you are still on our hearts and in our prayers. That's one thing Ben and I really want y'all to know is we love y'all, and we do anticipate and look forward to the day we're together again in person. So I'm going to read scripture, Romans 8:28, and it says, "And we know God causes all things to work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to his purpose." All things are in his hand, even those things we can't see, we don't understand, and it's all for his purpose and ultimately to bring him honor and to bring him glory. And sometimes that's hard to remember during times like this when we feel like we're distanced from each other, but we do know that he is at work. So Ben, you want to get us started in
Yes, last session of place, experiences of life. And so to kind of make a little fun for this introduction, Karen's got some hats, I've got some hats. And so we want you to think about this as just what it's like, some of the experiences you've gone through in life and some of the hats you put on. Now I'm actually going to put my hats on. So one of the things, and you can tell just by my attire that this is part of mine and Karen's experience. Country boy meets city girl. And so you see some of those distinctions. That's been fun. It's also caused some conflict at times. Was that you laughing, Megan?
Keep going.
So I've got a orange hat on here. One of my fun experiences that I remember growing up was actually going quail hunting and pheasant hunting with my dad and my grandfather and some uncles and my brothers. It was just a great experience growing up. Karen, you want to tell about one of your hats and experiences?
Actually, I wished I had it with me, but I guess I could say, him thinking about growing up. I grew up around here in this area. I remember having a cowboy hat, and I wore a cowboy hat. I guess my cowboy hat days are over. Something's happened to my hat. I don't know what's happened to it. But
hey, don't y'all think we need to get her a new cowboy hat? I think so.
So I guess
you set yourself up for that.
There you go. I'll take it.
By the way, I don't have a cowboy. In fact, as I was looking through my hats, I'm thinking
maybe we both need a cowboy hat.
I don't.
But anyway.
I don't have like a Texas hat to represent.
Well, and that is one thing that I do have here. Is my Texas hat that I wear, because especially when I was in Arkansas, I was a Texas girl, and I want everybody to know that I was a Texas girl. I was born in Texas, not Arkansas. I do love Arkansas, though. Don't get me wrong. Lots of experiences there, but I'm a Texas girl. So you got my Texas hat.
So I'm going to take off my blaze orange hat, and then I'm going to put one on. Some of you may not know what this is. I call it my Baron hat, and it really makes my kids embarrassed, especially my daughter. but that's okay. That's a normal thing for a dad to do. And so actually, if you're somebody who works outside and has to wear a hard hat, and especially in cold weather, this is one of those kind of hats that you would wear underneath. And so I've used it hunting,
Seen it a lot.
and I still haven't lost it.
Well,
so.
and also not only that, I remember you wearing it when things were cold. You know, Texas girl, married that northern boy who things got cold, and we would go home to visit his family. And for me, I needed a hat that kept me warm, especially when those big snows came and we went outside to play. So I had me hats that kept me warm. That was experience.
So another one of my experiences, you may not be able to see it from there, but on the front of this hat is it says Salukis. That was the university I went to, Southern Illinois University, home of the Salukis. How many of you know what a Saluki is?
I do.
It's because I told you, right? What is it?
I mean, it's a dog.
That's right.
It's kind of skinny dog.
It looks like a greyhound with long hair.
Yeah, there you go.
It's actually the oldest purebred dog in the world. It's an
So there you
ancient
go.
Egyptian
There you
racing
go.
dog. So SIU was a place where I was discipled. I was in college here when I was called into ministry. So really, SIU has a special place in my heart, one of those significant experiences in my life.
And I don't know what happened to it. Doesn't have it anymore. I guess I got rid of all my stuff. He keeps all his. I get rid of mine, I guess. But I had, it wasn't a hat, but I mean, I guess you could call it was like a visor, and it had DBU on it, and that's where I went to school.
Oh.
I remember having that.
That's
so.
right. And so I've got another hat here that this is for one of the National Guard units that was stationed at one time down in Magnolia. And Magnolia was where, when I graduated seminary and Karen graduated college, we first moved there after we both finished school. It was my first full-time ministry position, working as a campus minister. And so part of that ended up evolving to me doing some work with the National Guard unit there on campus, doing some chaplaincy work. And so one of the honors was they gave me a hat that helps me remember them and all those who serve.
And they called you on the back. They put the honorary.
Oh, that's right.
chaplain.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
So,
Honorary
yeah.
chaplain on the back. So.
Yeah, so, which, while we were in Magnolia, that we had all our kids there, and it started the days of I became a mom, and all the different experiences I've gone through, and the hats I've worn just being a mom, and things that they've been involved in. One that I wore many, many years that really carried me through a lot of different teams and all was the boys played baseball. It actually started with Megan first. She played t-ball. She wasn't too interested, so that didn't last long. But the boys carried it on, and so many, many times and experiences do I have wearing the baseball hat with the boys. Lots of great memories, lots of great experiences.
Yeah, and I couldn't find any of my old baseball hats because I coached the boys just about every season for several years. Basketball, baseball, football, and I know I got a lot of baseball hats. But here's another hat here, and you may not be able to see it from there, but on the front is a father and son and a little cross. And it's a reminder for me, just a variety of times I've spent outdoors with the boys, hunting and fishing, hiking through the woods. Hey, you've been through
I've been through some of those too,
Yep.
so that's right. Well, and just, you know, I have a bad hair day, you know, where days when, and Megan and I actually shared this, so this kind of is just experiences. It reminds me that we've had, even the hats, you know, you wear when you go up to special occasions you would wear. And then right now, new experience in our life was when our middle went to college, and ETBU, we now have just walking through that experience with him and learning what that's like, having one away out of the nest. And so many hats. We all wear tons of hats.
Oh, wait, I got one more.
Oh, he has one more he's going to share with you.
Now, can I leave this on through the
You can leave that on if you
Okay.
want, Ben.
So this is a hat when I worked with the family ministry team for the Arkansas Baptist State Convention with the evangelism team, we worked on an event called Hunt Fest, and it was a ministry to men, and it was an incredible experience. Both my boys were involved and engaged, and part of, after we left Magnolia, a big part of what I did was encouraging and equipping men. And so this hat kind of represents some of those experiences. I got the opportunity to speak at a variety of different wild game banquets, which I got to eat all that food too. So
You love that?
in fact, I remember one in South Arkansas where the boys went and they had barbecued raccoon. Have you ever had that? Well, my boys did, and they loved it. In fact, they came to me and said, "Dad, can we get seconds?" And
This mom's not going to be making raccoon, I can tell you
and I said, "Sure." And so they loved it, and we were getting ready to go, and they said, "Dad, do you think they would let us take some home?" And I said, "Sure." And so we took some home.
I remember you coming home with a big old plate full of a bunch of different wild game foods.
And we tried tricking you and Megan, but
Didn't work.
didn't work. So, all right, enough of that.
Lots of experiences.
We
that you
and
see,
you can
yeah.
do the same, and you can think about it with hats, shoes, clothes, just a way to think through some of those different experiences you've been through in life. So if you have your place booklet, turn to page 50, and we're going to look at some key experiences here. We'll help you fill in some of these blanks. So the first one, left-hand column up at the top, types of life experiences and finding my place. The first one there is spiritual experiences. And one of the stories there, 1 Samuel chapter 3, is the story of young Samuel when he kept waking up in the middle of the night. There was an angel calling out to him, and he thought it was... Gosh, I just lost Eli, that's right.
Yeah.
He thought it was Eli calling it, so he walked down to Eli's room and said, "Hey, what do you want?" And he was like, "Go back to bed." And it happened 2 or 3 times before finally Eli was like, "Oh, next time that happens, say, 'Speak, Lord, your servant is listening.'" And so it's just that spiritual experience of Samuel had. Another one you can look at it is Acts chapter 9. And it doesn't have the text listed here, but Acts chapter 9, Paul's conversion experience on the road to Damascus.
Oh, okay.
Significant spiritual experience. Hopefully, that's an experience you've had where you can look back to a point in your life where you made that decision to trust in Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. Turning from your sin, repenting, and placing your faith in Jesus alone for your salvation. So, significant spiritual experience. If you haven't had one of those and you'd love to talk to somebody, would just enjoy the opportunity to connect with you about that. Another one, religious or educational experiences. In Acts chapter 26, Paul talks about his training as a Pharisee. I mean, he was instructed in the law. He knew it backwards and forwards. Another one is painful experiences. I don't know if you've ever had painful experiences. If you've lived long enough, you've had some painful experiences. All of us have. I don't care whether you're a believer or unbeliever. We've all had painful experiences. 2 Corinthians chapter 1 talks about God being the God of all comfort. And when we go through these challenging experiences, God doesn't want to waste that. In fact, He allows us to go through some experiences so we can really turn around and minister to others in their pain and help them and walk alongside them and comfort them in that season.
And does that kind of go back to that Romans 8:28 that's up there that I shared?
Yeah.
So it all goes back to the purpose is glorifying Him.
Yeah.
So,
Now, one of the things I would say, sometimes you have to be careful when somebody's going through a painful experience, at least initially.
Right.
You don't necessarily want to come out and say, "Hey, Romans 8:28, everything's going to be okay."
Right.
Really, you want to come alongside. I'm sorry, I agree with you over that.
Sometimes just a hug is all that is required, no words. So.
Yeah. So, but some other things. Top right-hand column: loss of a loved one, divorce. Most of us we know family members that have experienced divorce, perhaps you. And it's one of those things that is very painful. Loss of a job could be another one. In fact, there are a lot of people right now wrestling with that. And the pain and the grief and the frustration and the anxiety that comes along with that. And you can read some of the others there: physical abuse, sexual abuse, falsely accused. Another blank down there: emotional abuse is something sometimes people experience. And thinking of some of our high school seniors out there in particular, or maybe even college seniors, that no prom, no graduation. A lot of families are dealing with no vacation. That's something we planned the 1st of June, and we kind of nix that with all this stuff going on. So a lot of different painful experiences out there.
That's a loss.
Another one in the middle of the page there: experiences of failure. Have you ever failed at something? Have you ever felt like a failure? One of the beautiful things when you read through the Bible, there's a lot of
failures.
And I think the Bible really is a real book. I mean, it's raw at times when you see some of the experiences that people go through. And so, but we learn from that. Matthew chapter 26, one of the experiences of failure is when Peter denied Jesus 3 times. The rooster crows. And Jesus had already even told him, Peter, you're going to deny me 3 times. No, I'll never do that. And he does. Experience of failure. And then another one is victorious experiences. Karen, you want to read that scripture there for us?
Yes, Genesis 32:28. It says, "Then the man said, 'Your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled,'" or I learned it, "wrestled with God and with men and have overcome." And that's Genesis 32:28.
So that's the story of Jacob when he's wrestling with God, and then he has that experience that's victorious. You can think other victorious experiences than about Nehemiah when he rebuilt the wall in a very short time frame. And there are those victorious kind of experiences in the Bible, and victorious experiences that you've had too.
That's true. All right. Now let's move on to page 51. Just here, one of the things I want you to do is just kind of read through this. But first, it says, "In what experiences have you had success, victory, or triumph?" You're looking at, don't look at the failure and all that, but look and think, okay, where have I been successful? Where have I been victorious, or feel like I triumphed over something? They have a list here that they, like I remember being asked and successfully coordinating youth events when I was a youth intern, and it was a big project, and I remember thinking, oh my goodness, I'm so overwhelmed, can I really do this? But I remember our youth staff, their encouragement, you can do this, and we pulled it off, and it was a great experience, and we even saw some kids come to trust Christ. And so I checked that one, but just look down there and look at some of those. Where have I succeeded? Where have I? And then you can start going from there and think, okay, what are some experiences over on other that I have had in life, that I have experienced and gone through, and just really reflect upon your life and stop and think. I know sometimes we don't like to really reflect and really stop and think, oh, what experiences did I go through? And sometimes we're like, well, I really haven't gone through anything. But really, I think once you really stop and you reflect and you think back, you're going to be able to see, okay, where was I successful? Where did I fail? Where did I feel like I was victorious? So just take some time to do that.
Well, and Karen and I have been through this several times, and one of the things that we discovered in going through this, we would identify some different experiences, and even though we had shared a lot with one another, there were still new experiences that we discovered about one another. So we want to encourage you Share with a friend, a spouse, family members, some of your experiences and some of the stories that go along with them. So turn to page 52. Let me help you, especially for those who are the melancholy C kind of personality. We want to make sure you get all the blanks filled in, because I know you'll be very frustrated if you don't. So page 52, what makes experiences different from abilities? Experiences are specific events and times you can recall. So it's something that happened that is in your memory that was significant. Normally, those events that are significant, we remember, we tell and retell and reflect upon those stories. Oftentimes, if it wasn't significant, it just kind of fades off the radar. So the other one there, successful experiences are evaluated by your determination of success, not others. So in other words, somebody may think, well, man, what about that experience? Well, that may not have been significant in your eyes, maybe for that other person, but so it's really you looking through the lens of your experiences and learning from that.
All right. And then moving on to page 53, here we're just going to look at, there's some steps in making the most out of those significant experiences. I mean, I think a lot of times, sometimes we pick up a book, we read it, and then how many times do we just kind of put it on the shelf and we're done? The purpose, especially like a self-help book, is you pick it up, you read it, you get something from it. And I think experiences are a lot like that. Would you agree with that, Ben? That, learn from them and use them, help others. So let's just look at some steps. The first one is acknowledge them, be honest and objective. And I think sometimes that's hard when it's about you, and especially maybe when it's been a failure.
Or a painful one.
Or painful. Sometimes it's hard to really be honest or objective, but you must acknowledge that. And then acknowledge that you survived or thrived. So a lot of times as we're going through those hard times, the painful experiences, we think, will we survive this? Will we get through this? And really, if you look back, some you can look back years. You did. You survived. So acknowledge that.
One of the things kind of related to that, I don't know how you're wrestling with all the corona stuff, but one of the things I started doing is just journaling down some different thoughts and experiences that we've been going through day to day, week to week. And that helps me in kind of fleshing some of my thoughts out on paper to learn from, well, I guess that leads into the next one. All right, keep going.
And the next one is write down any lessons that you learned. Because I think a lot of times, sometimes in the moment, we may not see. But I know there have been times in our lives that we have, like right now, like you said, Ben, you're writing down about all this corona stuff. I know probably 5 years from now, we're probably going to find those notes and be like, oh, look, do you remember? So
yeah.
Write it down. Keep that journal.
So Proverbs 24:32 says, I applied my heart to what I observed, learned the lesson from what I saw. And so writing things down can help you. In fact, in kind of preparing for this, I look back at some previous notes from actually years ago. Was it 2014? So what is that, 6 years ago?
Yeah.
Where I guess we had gone through this, taken somebody through it, maybe it was our family or something, and I had written down all my different kind of experiences, successful, painful. And then, so I made another note that I updated it here in 2020, because I've had several coming here to First Murphy. That was a significant experience for me and for our family. Okay.
All right. So, and even those of y'all who, I'm not really a writer like that. So journal or pray back a prayer to God about it. And so, all right, clean up any messes and turn them into successes. Sometimes in the experiences of life that get messy, get ugly, some of our failures, maybe it was our fault. We need to clean that up. Go and maybe there's some forgiveness that needs to take place, and we just may need to work on some things like that so that we can clean it up and we can make it a success, and then we can help others. So
Right.
then we have update your story. Ben did that, as he was saying. He found that list and then he updated it. And then the last one there, set a new goal, go after it, and keep going. Don't let the failures, the painfulness or painful experiences, or just the hard knocks of life get you down and keep you where you are. Learn from it, grow, so that you can keep going.
Okay, now we're on page 54, finding your place through experiences overview. So if you are a C kind of personality, you look at this page and you're like, oh man, this is so awesome. If you're an I personality, you're like, oh, come on, really? So this is what we're going to do, because we've covered some of these scriptures and stories there. Karen and I are just going to kind of walk through some of these experiences and share some of ours with you. And we want to encourage you to do the same with a friend, with a spouse, with family members, so you really learn from one another's experiences. So
Right.
Karen, why don't you start with a spiritual experience?
All right. For me, spiritual, I mean, I was blessed to grow up in a Christian home, as I've shared before, but I know a very significant spiritual experience for me was in 1997, January. It was right after the new year. Ben and I had taken our college students to Austin for Passion 97. It was the first Passion ever, and
That dates us.
that does date us. And actually, I was pregnant, and just the teaching I heard there and the praise and worship, just crying out to God and just together with these college students and leaders worshiping. It was a powerful experience, and I really remember one night as we were there, the song Shout to the Lord came out, and we're all standing there singing, and we got to the point, it just brings tears to my eyes, where it's, I'll sing for joy at the works of your hands, forever I'll praise him, forever I'll stand. Nothing compares to the promises I have in you. And I remember at that moment, and here I'm pregnant and I'm worshiping with all these people, and we are just truly glorifying the Lord. And Megan moved in my stomach, and I remember just, Lord, I have your promises. And it was just a significant spiritual experience that the Lord was there. He's made this beautiful person inside of me, and now I'm going to be a mom, and forever may I praise him. And it really drew me just a whole new love relationship for the Lord, and for really worshiping in him for as I have this kid and future children the rest of my life. So that was a very significant spiritual experience.
That's good. And I know you got others, but that's just one. So another is the religious or educational kind of experiences. One of the significant things for me was going through a Doctor of Ministry program at Midwestern Baptist Theological Seminary. And I focused on family ministry, and really my doctoral project was equipping parents to design and implement a strategic plan for discipling their children at home. And it was something that really Karen and I had experimented with and tried to figure out, still in the process of figuring out in these different seasons. But it was something that I spent a whole lot of time studying and writing, and then teaching other parents and learning from them. So that was a significant experience that really has continued to affect me, affect us, and other parents and families. It's even some of the stuff that we brought here to First Murphy, and still want to champion just parents being those primary disciple makers in their home.
Exactly.
So Karen, you want to share a painful experience?
Yeah, and really painful. This is, I mean, it was really together, so you can jump in. We really went through a season. It was probably, Megan was about 2, I believe, and it seemed like it was a short period, But it was just a period of some painful things that happened in our life. Ben was an interim pastor at a church where close to where we were living at the time, and there was a young couple there, and
About our age.
and we had even had a couple Sunday lunches with them, and we're getting to know them. And on the way home from work one day, he was hit and he died, and just walking through that with them, and it seemed like just we walked through that, and then a couple days later from that, after funeral and all of that, we had some dear friends of ours who walked through just a painful time in their life that we were like, here we go again. Well, then I got pregnant, and a joy, so excited about that. And I was about 10, 12 weeks along. They knew it was somewhere in there, and I started having some complications, and we had even gone back to see the doctor, and on the way home we had a wreck. Thank goodness we were both okay, shaken up, but they said baby was okay, everything was okay, and kept going in the pregnancy. And a couple weeks later, I started having problems again, and ended up one night, Ben was like, Karen, I think we need to go to the hospital. And so we went to the hospital, and once we got there, I ended up losing the baby, and just it was a dark, very dark time for us.
Yeah.
And very painful, and we didn't have family around. Ben, you may can share a little bit.
I still
more.
remember just being there. Just Karen was sedated, and I just remember being there all alone. And because it was late at night, and no friends or family around, because it was just something that happened
so fast,
rather quickly.
Right.
But we were amazed, even after that, talking about that comfort.
That's right.
When we shared that experience, we were amazed the number of people who themselves had experienced miscarriages.
Yeah.
And came alongside, said, hey, we know what you're going through. We're praying for you. And that meant a lot.
Yes, that was very helpful. So, and then failures.
Boom, boom.
I'm sure I have a lot. Let's see.
So I'll share one. Really, for me, and you've heard me share this. I don't know if I've kind of shared it quite this way, but as I look back on just my Christian life and a season, you've heard me tell the story about how I made a decision to trust in Christ when I was 10. But I really look at this span in my older childhood, teenage years, where honestly, I felt kind of like a failure, where I can't say I really walked with God. I didn't bear fruit for Him. And to a certain extent, I felt like the church was a failure too, in the sense, why didn't somebody disciple me and help me learn what it means to read and study my Bible, and how to share my faith and grow in my walk with Jesus? And so that was one of those things, as I look back, that failure kind of experience has motivated me in some significant ways to really be a champion for discipleship.
And I would say, that's one thing when I think Ben Phillips, you really have that heart for discipleship. You had that failure, but you turned that into a success, and he's using it to disciple others. So I think you definitely, we can get stuck in our pain, we can get stuck in our failures, but like you say, you're using it to make a difference. So
Karen, how about, let's say on a positive note, how about Victoria's experience?
Victoria's, I look at Victoria's experience for us, I think is, I remember our kids, our journey. Of course, we homeschool, but that wasn't
Always
the
the case.
beginning of our journey. Our kids were in public schools, and we had great experiences. I mean, we still have some relationships of teachers past and great experience, but God was really working in us, and we decided that he was calling us to homeschool. And so really I started homeschooling the boys first, because Megan, when I started them, she was in her 8th grade year, but we knew she had 4 more years. So our plan was Megan was going to finish and just stay where she was, public school, and then I would continue with the boys homeschooling. And, every year we'll see what happens. Year of homeschool with the boys, finished that, and Ben and I really had God really laid on our heart that we needed to bring Megan home and homeschool her, her high school years. Scared to death. What are we doing? She was not excited, and the first few years weren't very pleasant at times, and I can say go back to some of the painful, some of the failures. Senior year, she really soared. I mean, she ended up, was doing great, was looking at colleges, where to go and all. And the victorious part of the experience is, I'll never forget, when she graduated. I think victorious for her. I actually did this. I don't know how, but I did it and I made it. And for Ben and I, it was just victorious seeing that even though this was something that kid did not even want to do in the beginning, it was neat. We saw that she overcame and she kept going and she graduated. And, it's even neat today because we'll talk and she'll say, someday when I have kids, I hope I can homeschool. I never thought I would hear that out of my daughter. Maybe my boys, but not my daughter's mouth. So it did end up being a victorious experience
And who would have thought, like right now, everybody's homeschooling, whether you want to do or not. So any
right
questions, complications you have, give Karen a call and she'll help solve all your problems.
I don't know about that, but take it one day at a time, and that's really what we had to do.
Yeah.
So
one of the things I would kind of add to this, you can also look at some of your work experience, family experiences. There's a variety of different ways you can look at your experiences in life.
That's right.
You can look through different seasons. You can look at those childhood experiences, adolescent experiences, young adult, young married, middle-aged, retired. So there's a variety of different ways you can look at your experiences and learn from them. Again, Proverbs 24:32, applied my heart to what I observed, learned a lesson from what I saw. So the point is, God has, in his providence, allowed you to have a variety of different experiences for a reason, for you to capitalize upon those and to really be involved in ministry and in serving others out of the overflow of some of those experiences and sharing some of those with others and meeting people's needs. So let's look on page 55. One of the things I would encourage you to do, evaluating experiences in finding my place. I would encourage you to think of some individual experience, and these are some questions that you can use to help you evaluate that, reflect upon those. Why was I successful or unsuccessful in this experience? Was the successful experience rewarding? If the experience was successful but not rewarding, why? If the experience was rewarding but not successful, why? Could I take a successful but unrewarding experience and use some of the skills that made me successful to determine what I could do that is rewarding? So just some helpful open-ended questions to help you kind of process some of what you've written down and have been thinking about. Then let's look on page 56. Again, the reflection. Think back and identify just a handful of key experiences that if you were to look back, this marked my life. It may be victorious. It may be a painful. It may be one of those educational experiences or a spiritual experience. And so think about some of those things that really marked your life and jot down a few of those there. Like for me, you've heard me say it multiple times, Master Life. Key experience. One of the, Karen mentioned passion. One day, 2003 was for me, connected with the passion movement. Karen, you got a couple you might share briefly?
Well, just the loss of my dad, losing a parent, just walking through that and how painful that was, and just, it's helped me be more passionate for others who are going through a tough time with a parent or the pain of losing a parent.
Yeah. So all experiences aren't pleasant. I mean, let's just be honest. We all go through difficult circumstances, but I think even those we can learn from those. And in fact, I've shared some of my difficult experiences and failures with our kids. We try to share some of those, and especially what we learn from them.
That's right.
So if we can maybe prevent them from making some mistakes that we did, then maybe that'll be helpful for them. So let's look on page 57. So what? Understanding myself helps me realize a whole lot of different things. And so the whole goal in going through place is to help you understand who God has created you to be. All these experiences, these giftings, these abilities. And so let's just kind of do a quick review. First session, we talked about personality discovery. 4 different personalities. The DISC, dominant, influencer, steady, conscientious, or some of you may be more familiar with the cleric, sanguine, melancholy, phlegmatic. Karen, briefly, what was your top personality?
My top one was the phlegmatic, that steady, just the easygoing, but also I had some of the sanguine in there.
Mine would be conscientious, the melancholy, the detailed kind of person. So the other one was learning about spiritual gifts. That was the second session. So there were a variety of different spiritual gifts. Karen, what were some of your top ones?
Administration and discernment, and then encouragement.
Okay. I put wisdom, leadership, teaching, and then there were some others. And then next unit we talked about abilities awareness.
And there I had social, enterprising, and I look at those mostly as the ability just relating with people, working with people. So,
yeah,
what'd you get?
For mine, I put investigative and conventional. And then last week we talked about connecting passion with ministry. We talked about different people and the kind of groups we were passionate about. How about you, Karen? What were some of those?
Of course, I had the youth college students. You kind of see that now. Me working with Sunday school with that group, and then just the marriage. I mean, I think both of us are just
couples,
marriage, getting married, and then parenting.
Yeah, and so I put couples, men, parents. Some of the areas that I'm passionate about, and then demonstrating my passion. Were some options. Do you remember what you put there? Did you write that down?
Okay, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, just for me, it was influencing and leading, organizing, and improving.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so that's another thing. So this will help you kind of think, because you look at all the material we've covered. We've covered a lot of stuff.
A lot, yes.
And then of course today we talked about the experiences of life and how that affects us. So to really kind of wrap this up, the whole reason for going through place was really to help you to discover the way that God has designed you.
That's right.
Because when you understand the way God designed you, then you understand you're a unique creation of God. And because of the unique experiences you've gone through, the unique giftings, passions, and experiences you have, the abilities, the gifts, all those shape you and enable you to serve in some specific areas in the church or even out in the community. So one of the things that we're going to do, this is kind of a little different the way this kind of panned out with all the coronavirus pandemic stuff, because really we had planned to have a lot of interaction here with our different small groups, but now we're having to do it this way. So one of the things we're going to do, I'll email you a PDF later on this week, and it will include personality discovery, learning about spiritual gifts, abilities, connecting passion with the ministry, and experiences of life, where I'm going to ask you to go through and fill in those blanks and then send back to the church. Another thing I may do, I may design some sort of online form that you can fill out that may be a little bit easier for some of you.
Just be looking for it. It is coming.
Yeah, so that's going to come, and what we'll do is we'll pull all of that into a database. So as we have different needs, or even if you were to come and say, hey, Ben, one of the things I discovered about myself going through this, I want to do this. And that excites me as a pastor when people get excited about using their gifts and passions and experiences to make a kingdom impact. So that's the reason we went through this, to help us help each other and further God's kingdom. Now, ideally, you would have gotten the opportunity to share in your small groups and learn about other people in our church through this. And maybe there'll be a time in the future where we'll get an opportunity to do some of that.
And that's one thing you may want to do is text someone here at church and or give them a phone call and say, hey, what did you discover about yourself as we went through Place these past few weeks? You know, talk amongst each other and share with each other. And I think the more you share and the more you really look into all this, it just really helps you be able to, one, really know who you are and who Christ created you to be. And I think that's so important. And I think that when we really grasp that and we understand that, serving and when ministry opportunities come along, we're going to be willing and to say, yes, Lord. So have fun with it and just enjoy sharing with each other what you learned through this.
Yeah. Well, we're thankful that God has created you who you are, and that God has brought you here to First Baptist Murphy. And if you don't have a church home and you want to discover some of this, we want to help you on this journey to discover who God has created you to be and how you can get plugged in and serve and be involved and engaged. So we're excited about what God's going to do in the future here at First Baptist Church Murphy. And speaking of that, we're about ready to take a little break and move into our worship service later here at 10:30. So why don't we pause and pray, and then that way you'll have a little time to get set up and ready for our worship time. Let's pray. Father, I thank you for a God who allows us to go through so many different experiences. Lord, I'll confess that some of them I wish I hadn't gone through. But in your mercy, you were there, and your Spirit was there to comfort, and other friends to walk alongside some of those difficult, painful experiences, some of those failure experiences. And Lord, I pray that you'll help us to learn from this. Lord, that you'll help people here in our congregation discover their place. And Lord, that we will expand kingdom ministry here at First Baptist Murphy and into our community as people discover who you've created them to be and how you want them to use their gifts to serve you. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, we'll see you
y'all.
soon. Love you. Bye.